What screams I'm upper class? Please like, subscribe and comment so I can create more videos for you. I work in a private school with international boarding students. At the end of each school year, students leave behind computers, gaming systems, Apple Watches, designer clothes, etc. They just leave it. My university is largely dominated by rich Asian immigrants. These kids have so much money they don't care about anything. I've seen them leave NMDs, Yeezys and other shoes over $200 in the gym locker room just under a bench, unlocked. Being offhand about things that are very expensive for the plebeians. I've found that many rich people are less obnoxious about showing off wealth than are people who are almost rich that feel they have to match up to people who make more than they do. Pulling up perfectly beautiful $100,000 floors to put in different $100,000 floors. I worked for folks who did this. Neighbors on my street spend $5 on a townhouse. Then they gutted it and rebuilt it completely, putting in another $5. A good amount went into digging down the backyard a couple of stories and craning in mature trees over the house. Congrats. They now have a $6 house that cost them $10 and 100 pissed off neighbors that had to live here during the construction. Editing to add this to shortcut any confusion. What does M&M stand for? Accounting Coach webpage. Having a butler's pantry. You just have 2 kitchens. Admit you are rich. I grew up attending private school in a developing country. Majority of my classmates were in the 1% of the country. These are some of my observations. Connections. You're visiting a foreign country. Friends' parents know the now ambassador to said country from back in the day. You arrive in the airport and you're picked up by a caravan of black Suburbans. You don't visit people's houses. You visit their estate, fincas. You know that famous building Plaza National Park? Yeah, it's named after So-So's grandfather. Their family owns professional sports team, national newspaper, and national television channel. Edit. Please stop trying to guess. I'd rather not disclose, but the general guesses are in the area. It's not Colombia though. A few more. Our school's soccer football tournament final was held in the country's national stadium. Money. Can't do that. Family members of classmates are presidential candidates going up against family members of other classmates. A few became the eventual president. We got a lot of free stickers, shirts and pens. Most had private drivers and maids. I'd go over my friend's place and he'd ask me if there was anything I'd want to eat. The chef could make it. I always asked for spaghetti because they'd serve it with real Parmesan cheese, and I never had that in my life and it was impossible to get in the country at the time. Friend of mine's family owned an airline. He'd have Big Macs flown over from Miami once a week. There was and there still is no McDonald's in the country. He would let me take a bite. Powerful families marry each other. Someone I know married a Joe Schmo. She pretty much got excommunicated from the family until she had kids. They are back in it, but the husband is not spoken about. Using summer as a verb, especially with the prepositional phrase in the Hamptons. Yep, Hamptons, Nantucket, Cape Cod, we have a house up in the Berkshires. Edit, you're right. It's less about visiting there and more about if you summer there, own a house. Learned all these things when I went to Wasp College lol. Edit, swap the shore with we have a house up in the Berkshires. I come from a rather wealthy family and I've noticed a pattern. They never say they're rich, they always say the exact same phrase. We live comfortably every time. I say I live comfortably, but I'm quite poor. I do live comfortable. I have enough food, a warm place to sleep, a car, appliances, and a bit of money to buy comic books. I get your point, but pointing out it can mean something different. I've slept on the floor, had no heat, no fridge, no stove, not enough to eat. This is very comfortable to me. Wearing tailor-fitted custom clothes. True wealth don't mess with labels and all the things lower class folks try to prove worth by wearing. Edit, bespoke clothing was what I meant. Pre-coffee me forgot there was a word for what I was trying to describe. I just knew what it looks like and the type to wear it. Being a regular at the high-end restaurant. Guy I know eats there with his family every other day. Recommends the steak. It's $150 a plate. Sitting on your boat, on a Tuesday. In water, of course. Sitting on your boat in the driveway on a Tuesday, is middle class. Edit thanks for the silver and gold. Now I can go get a boat and sit on it next Tuesday, in the water. My brother's friend stole his grandma's credit card and racked up $2,500 in charges on it towards various Xbox store shit like Fortnite and Forza Currency and a bunch of pre-orders on new games. I was like, wow, he must have gotten that Xbox taken away and was probably murdered shortly after. My brother told me all that they told the kid was, you should have just asked us. Upper class bullshit. When I was a teenager, my best friend stole her mum's debit card and spent hundreds of dollars before anyone noticed. Her punishment was to clean the house for money to pay it back. So she had to do her normal chores, but she got paid for it. It wasn't a punishment at all. Your roommates not understanding why one save leftovers. My parents both comes from homes where you don't waste anything. The grandparents lived on an island in the middle of the Baltic Sea during the rationing of WW2 and you couldn't just order more meat at a whim. But the mates complained about Tupperware cluttering the fridge, taking up place from cooling their waters and booths. Also not being able to get into their head that you could in fact be too low on cash not to be able to treat oneself with different actions or products. What? I didn't even know there was a kind of rich that doesn't eat leftovers. I do it for the ease and simplicity more than money saving. That depends on which country you are from. In the UK, being upper class is not about money but having come from the right family. Years ago I worked for a startup in London. They hired a guy who had a double-barreled name etc. Later we discovered he was master of the hunt in some rural county and whatever. First day he doesn't turn up till nearly lunchtime. The boss called him out and he said, "What you have to remember is that I'm the first member of my family to work in the past 300 years. Guess they'd run out of money." Being related to the Queen or having a title. The only things that would deem someone to be upper class in the UK. Everything else is upper middle class. Doctors, lawyers etc. Yep. I have one upper class acquaintance. And he is stone fucking broke. Every penny goes into keeping the roof over his head, literally. My roommate is scared of his shadow cause this is the first time he's lived in a middle class situation. If the door is unlocked for more than walking in and out he's under the assumption that someone's just gonna walk in and attack us. He also thought a fairly decent neighborhood was the ghetto once. Edit, this is not an apartment building. Me and two roommates share a house in a middle class neighborhood. And the locking of the doors is obsessive as locking it during a cookout with friends so people couldn't freely move in and out. Edit 2. I'm just editing cause I didn't realize how polarizing this would be. To all you people who lock your doors obsessively. Do you not open your windows in the summer? Isn't that just hypocritical? I grew up in a house where the AC didn't go on unless it was in the 90s or higher. The house will be open, that's part of life. The hilarious thing about this is that I grew up in a shitty area and I have exactly the same behavior, locking doors. Like bro, you trying to get us robbed? Motherfucker, I don't care if we're on vacation in the middle of rural North Carolina. That 80-year-old Smithson couple who said hello when we were driving in looks sketchy AF and I'm not trying to get my shit jacked by geriatric Bonnie and Clyde. Lock the fucking door. Deadbolt 2 motherfucker, that old dude looked wiry AF under them overalls, he'll kick straight through that weak ass chain shit. Not at all wealthy but I went to private school. My teacher told me that this girl in another class came to do his exam in beach type clothing, flip-flops and everything. We lived almost 1,000 miles from the nearest beach. When she turned in the exam paper my teacher joked, "Are you going to the beach?" She said yes. I was with my family there. I took my dad's private jet to come do your exam and head back. I remember when I went to uni. I opted to stay in the most expensive halls. I was just young and stupid with money, so I ended up living with a bunch of affluent farmers and the like. As a city boy from a working class family, I was well out my depth, and some of the conversations I had went straight over my head. I remember one girl talking about how a private detective had followed her dad for a while. She said we could just about see his car at the bottom of the drive. I stopped her and said, "What do you mean you could barely see his car?" She explained it was a long driveway. The thought of having a driveway leading up to your house so long that you could barely see a car at the end of it just blew my tiny mind. A farmer having a long ass driveway is probably the worst indicator of wealth I've seen in this thread. A fancy estate or whatever, sure, but a long laneway leading to a farmhouse is pretty much the general rule. Hosting parties every night all summer in your house while you spy on the married woman across the river that used to love you. Waiting to meet someone at those parties who knows the married woman so that you can be reintroduced and fall in love again and regain what was lost. Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch out our arms farther, and one fine morning, so we beat on boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. Being able to take other people on holiday with you and paying for them. The true mark of the upper class is being totally removed from the reality of other humans, evidenced by statements that scream, "I don't know how the rest of America lives." Examples: you work too much, take some time off to travel. Related: you got a job right after college. You've got a whole life ahead of you for work. Why not spend a few months in Europe getting life experience? Not actually flaunting your wealth is a huge sign. A lot of people try to look expensive, but people who are upper class often try to hide their wealth. Defining yourself as well off and upper middle class rather than saying you're rich and upper class. When you use them in a trash bag instead of just a grocery bag for your little bathroom garbage can. Don't know how to describe it, but there is a certain type of confidence you get when you have many multiple digits in your bank account. Upper class people don't seem to get pushed around. Oh my god, I'm on my lunch break right now. This literally just happened. Work at Starbucks. We clean the bathrooms frequently because of our open door policy. Anybody can use them, so we stay on top to keep them clean. Dude in an expensive suit and watch came up to order, immediately got red in the face, angry, and shouted, "You were just scrubbing a toilet. I'm not ordering here. Ever. Again. Bro. Every toilet ever needs to be cleaned. Every bathroom in every public space gets cleaned by an employee. We take sanitary conditions very, very seriously. It's not like I was fishing for turds with bare hands and then dunking my thumbs in your coffee. Would you rather nobody clean the bathroom ever? Did you think we had a separate guy who only cleans the bathroom? Seriously, dude. Did you think we had a separate guy who only cleans the bathroom? That's exactly what he thinks. He's got a maid that does that stuff at his house, and his office contracts with a cleaning agency. He knows that the poorer you are, the more of that kind of stuff you do yourself, i.e. fix your car to avoid paying a mechanic. Clean your own bathrooms to avoid paying a maid, but he sees Starbucks as a business, so expects them to be like his office where the accountants never ever do cleaning related tasks. Basically being able to travel whenever and wherever you want to without having to worry about putting life on hold. It would be nice to have that ability. We're not rich, we're just comfortable, that's what all the rich people say. When someone gets guacamole on their Chipotle burrito without hesitation. If you would believe it, a new combine harvester. Those fuckers can easily cost over $500,000 USD with enough options on them, and there are farmers who buy a brand new one every year. Taxes. Just like cars, they lose most of the dollar value immediately. So you use it 1 year and sell it to one of your other farms, taking a capital loss and other deductions, without having had to pay anything for maintenance repair. Combined with the kickback you get from the dealership, it reduces your yearly cost to nearly nothing. My cousin, from a poor family married into a very wealthy family. We're talking NBA regulation court, have US presidents over for dinner, donates $10 million to charities, wealthy. My cousin was engaged at the time of this incident. He's an honest dude and doesn't take handouts. His 98 Ford F-150 breaks down, so he's riding his bike to work. Fiance's father finds out and shows up unannounced at his work. Hands my cousin the keys to the brand new Tundra he bought 2 days ago. Cousin is overwhelmed, can't believe it. Cousin asks, why? And this is when my cousin realized they were wealthy. His future father-in-law tells him it's because my cousin loved his daughter before he knew about their money. And he finishes up with, plus I wanted a different one. Proceeds to walk across the parking lot and gets into even newer truck. 2 fully tricked out Tundras, running about $70 k each, in 3 days. No big deal. That man is humble as hell. If you met him, you'd never know his wealth unless you went to his house. If you hate your job, just quit, go back to school, and become an engineer, doctor, lawyer. It's not that hard. Geez. And X200B, edit, yeah, I get it. Some people manage to pull it off. The earlier you try, the better. I am currently doing this. But I'm definitely not upper or middle class. Maintenance loan FTW. Being discreet and subtle about money. Not flaunting wealth, status, education, advantages, or privilege. I live in an upper class neighborhood and usually right around 7 I get on my golf cart with my blowhorn and start screaming I'm upper class until right around 9:15. My best friend was discussing the fact she wanted chicken nuggets, when another friend goes, chicken nuggets. I prefer lamb nuggets honestly. Screamed upper class. Something I used to do when I was fresh out of the nest. Why don't you just ask your parents to buy it for you? Edit, just in case it was unclear, this is something I used to do. My family considers themselves upper middle class, which in itself kinda screams upper class. I left home for college and was confronted with my own privileges, one of which being I didn't understand why people didn't ask their parents for money to pay for critical things like healthcare or other bills, because I had never been in a position where this wasn't possible for me. Present day me is very much financially independent and very much has to pay for her own bills and very much does not ask people why they don't ask their parents for money. Damn. My friend always asks me that question and it hurts me quite a bit. The people who don't have a job, yet somehow end up in 5-star hotels off the beach every month. Mommy and daddy are clearly upper class. If they're attractive females and go on trips to Dubai a lot, they're probably escorts. Excellent question. I shall ask my butler in return with his response. Edit, I inquired of Conroy what, in his opinion as a man of the serving class, what attributes of man clearly establishes him to be of a higher station. He responded as a servant, I would never presume to judge the status of those above myself. While this was obviously the correct answer, I did not care for his tone and gave him a sound thrashing. Having a well-maintained old car, cheap clothes but eye-wateringly expensive outwear and jewelry. So a t-shirt from Topshop but coat from Barber and pearl earrings not a penny under £1.50 K. Goes to church but doesn't talk about religion. Really strict about appropriate dress. For example, little boys wear shorts. Puts their winter clothes away in the spring. UK only, non-Londoner only, has a flat in London. Buy Reddit coins and give to random people on Reddit because you liked what they wrote. Your first car was an Audi. Edit, lot of upper class folk in the comments telling me how Audis are cheap. Specialized kitchen appliances. If someone has an automatic pita bread machine they are probably doing pretty well for themselves. Getting your butler, Archibald Harrington 3, to give you a spiffing under the covers wank while you eat your morning crumpet. Denying that you're upper class when you clearly are. As an example, speaking as a British person, ask the Princes William and Harry if they are upper class. I guarantee that they'll dodge the question. Nobody who is actually upper class will ever call themselves upper class. Even if they are, as they are, basically the most obviously upper class people on the planet. They never will say it. Anyone who says they are upper class isn't. Edit, see also. Being completely approachable and unpretentious because you have absolutely nothing to prove. Edit 2. Again. Also, the old joke about seeing your doctor. You either say I'm seeing the doctor about my leg or I'm seeing my doctor about the leg. That one speaks for itself. Literally. Technically they are not upper class, they're royalty, which is above that. I once sat down for dinner with a girlfriend's family and they asked me to say grace, no doubt as some sort of test. You could have heard a pin drop when I recited my school's grace in Latin without missing a beat. Lots of connections. In almost any industry, the people I know who are upper class, I know quite a few because I went to private girls' school, always have tons of connections. If they want to be a lawyer, oh, their godfather is a world-renowned one and she can do work experience with him. A neuroscientist. No problem, that's her mom's childhood friend. A good example is my step-grandma whose father was an Italian count. She went to Rhodian and said she used to spend her summer holidays at her friend's house with Roald Dahl, who was the uncle of her friend. Also, I remember I had a friend whose father was in the Oxford Freemasons, which is basically the epitome of connections. A boat. Expensive to buy and maintain, used only once a year, used while resting and relaxing or while taking a vacation, not really needed, can do orgy. My rich friends show off by going to random countries on vacation and getting new cars. My wealthy friends hide their wealth since they could literally buy entire cities if they wanted to. That's wealth. Walking around with a pure gold crown and a royal flowing cape. With a parade of well-dressed people running in front of you screaming make way for the prince. I gotta say, a lot of the comments in this thread are simply about people in the second decile of wealth, rich but not mega rich. Louis Vuitton and all the luxury brands have pivoted recently, making their products a stretch goal for the common man. You can scrap together $5k. You can go to Coachella dressed in Gucci. We won't be seeing you in San Marino, though. Tate. Class, of course, has variability between countries and cultures. In the USA it's only about money, in Europe it's about money but also noble status. Middle class in the UK usually means wealthy fancy, i.e., middle class people buying kale salads for Oliver's school lunch. Upper class means noble, a landed gentry. Personally, my family on my father's side had landed gentry status in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. We have a family crest and all but lost all our land in the Holocaust. My grandparents spent most of their lives trying to pretend they were a noble family cast out in Exodus, despite living a squarely middle-income life, so I caught quite a few of the class markers, signaling on the pinky finger, or worn on a chain around your neck by some women. Framed family crest in your home. Bonus if you have it reproduced to hang in your place of work. Capacity to speak 3 or more languages. The exception is Americans, who remain firmly monolingual no matter how rich they get. Occasionally they can speak 3 lines of battered French and you have to humor them. A family friend who is grotesquely rich that you periodically visit to ask for $. Various family members who don't really work ever, but who are always bipping around to different countries and sponging off friends and relatives. Mahogany. Relatives who you actually don't know the relationship to, so you just call them cousin even though they are 90+ years old. Thin. No upper class people are fat. If you're fat and rich, you're not upper class. Exception. Over 70. Lots of tenuous connections to very powerful people. An uncle who was JFK's allergy doctor, having George Soros as a classmate in primary school, etc. Going hunting, but not like that. Horses, but not like that. Boats, but not like that. This one is Canadian only, but having heat coils under your driveway so you don't have to shovel the snow. Attending an expensive university but working events for 10 years. Never cutting off a family member no matter how mean they are because you know where your bread is buttered. Finally, the real thing that differentiates the upper class from the wealthy middle class is the sense of social obligation. You receive benefits as a result of your birth, but that also ties you to obligations. You can't just get a tattoo, you can't just marry anyone. Racially, they're getting more open, for instance, but your spouse must be well educated and rarefied. You can't be vulgar and go to Disney World like some sort of pleb. Your children must adhere by standards of behavior when they are in the presence of their relatives, and a lot of these old schmucks really adhere by saddle shoes and seen but not heard. You can be vegetarian, but that is pushing it in terms of diet. You can pursue hobbies, but they must be dignified ones. You have to make good conversation and be an entertaining guest. Your elders, parents or aunts and uncles and grandparents, are entitled to make any type of judgment, and at least while you are around, you adhere to their assessments. Of course, you can turn your back on any of these things. But then you can turn your back on all the benefits of the money, the connections, etc. Good luck on your own out there, Jack. Using a coach purse to protect your more expensive Hermes bag from the rain. Taking a gap year to travel the world. And X200B, edit, I didn't realize so many non-wealthy people did this too. Out of the people I know, it was mostly the richer kids who could afford to travel before uni. A lot of these are students doing backpacking trips and staying in hostels, which is hardly a rich lifestyle. Being too old to call your parents mommy and dad but still do it anyway. Everyone here, yeah, the upper class, everyone here found the upper class guy. You're more predictable than a house tour. Not having to worry whether or not a visit to the ER will wipe out your life savings. God bless my country's healthcare system. I was given a bed, good food and psychiatric care 24/7 in a clinic for 10 days. I paid €60 for the stay, and since I had already paid €110 for medicine during the last 4 months, the new medicines came at 75% sale. I wish people could actually learn how the Scandinavian countries handled their economy instead of screaming socialists. No one should be afraid of seeking medical aid. People list things that can be afforded with a decent job that is not upper class. You kids need some more personal finance.